it can be hard to know what to say when someone's lost a pet. It can be hard to know what to do. So I wanted to talk through the different steps of things that you can talk about. I used to be a pet bereavement support volunteer for the Blue Cross. So I gave it up actually when my gran passed away, just because it was just too raw at that point, and then I got busy with work and things. But I'm just going to go through the different things that I learned on it. So I wanted to talk about the different types of loss and grief, because for some people it's not always that the animal has got poorly and been put to sleep. So thinking about the different types of grief, there's disenfranchised loss, which is often something that pet loss is. It's unrecognised and unacknowledged grief. So if someone doesn't have a pet, that might be something that they partake in with a colleague that has lost a pet, because they can't empathise with it because they haven't experienced it themselves. So bereavement counselling for someone who's lost a pet can be helpful because it can offer recognition and validation, which they might miss with colleagues at work, because there's no kind of time off if you've lost a pet, unless you're a very forward-thinking company, but there's no kind of law that allows kind of compassionate leave if you've lost a pet. The Blue Cross have a pet bereavement support line where people can ring up. It's open on Christmas Day as well, and it allows people to express their grief openly. Complicated grief. This is when the pet might have originally belonged to someone, but the person that's passed away. So say Snowy, the cat, belonged to the person Sue's mother, and Sue's mother's passed away, and now Snowy has passed away. So that Snowy formed a real connection between the loss of Sue's mother and her, and now that connection's broken because Snowy's also gone. Rehoming. Sometimes pets are rehomed, and that can be a really difficult loss for people. They will often feel guilt, anger, self-blame, sadness that things couldn't be different. Obviously, pets could be rehomed because they're unwell. People have lost their jobs. They're going through a divorce. Allergies have come up. There's challenging behaviour that can't be resolved. They don't have the time, perhaps, because they've got a new job. So something to consider. If a cat leaves, the owner can obviously feel unlovable, even though that's not the case at all. And memorials can help for some people. Obviously, pet loss is very individualistic in terms of how people cope and want to memorize their pets, but commemorating their loss by having a pet, a tree or plant in the garden can be helpful for some. Unresolved grief is when there's a prolonged and protracted anxiety, not knowing what's happened to the pet because they've never been reunited with them. that's very hard. Disenfranchised grief, again, your pet's disappeared. You can't talk to others about it for some people because they feel embarrassed about the pet leaving them, or you feel that you're to blame, that you should have taken better care. These are all feelings that people tend to feel. And then traumatic death and loss, maybe a road traffic accident. People can have symptoms such as nightmares and flashbacks, numbing, not reacting, which is obviously the other end of the spectrum, fear, panic, irregular heartbeat, physical symptoms like diarrhea, and avoidance of anything that associates with the loss. So they're kind of the different types of grief and loss there. If you are supporting someone that has lost a pet, or you're experiencing it yourself, I'm very sorry. For some people, bucket list can be helpful. Doing things that you want to do with your pets. So a special meal or a really tasty treat, allowing the pet on the bed. A trip to a special place. Bearing in mind, you can get dog buggies and things now. And things not to say to someone when they've lost a pet is, are you going to get a new one? Think about, never ever say it's just the pet as well. Explain to them if they're thinking about it, that there's no rush, and perhaps that there's no expectation to bond straight away, and to give yourself permission to grieve. The 5 Stages of Grief by Kubler-Ross. There's different ideas out there, but that's a common one. It's thought that you can go through these stages, but it's not a linear process, so you go in and out of them. But they involve denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. It's not a prescribed formula, so it can be different for everyone. So with children and grief, it can be the first experience of their loss as well. Sorry about that, recovering from a cold. Hence the tea as well. It's always good to have a cup of tea. Ages, so up to 2 children, very young children, they don't have no concept of death, but they can feel tension, obviously, if they're shouting and crying in the house. 2 to 4 years old, they might ask questions such as, where's he gone? When is he coming back? Can we dig him up? And asking questions, like curious questions. Will he be hungry? Can he breathe? And we have to remember that children are watching cartoons, and in cartoons, animals often jump back to life. So that can be, they might think that happens in real life as well. They might find it hard to believe that death is permanent. In 5 to 8, this can be, for some children, the magical thinking stage. So they may feel that death is... that superheroes can control death. So they might have seen that a lot on TV. They may feel that the death is their fault. They didn't save the pet. Which is important to explain to them that it's not their fault. Sometimes they can think that it's a punishment for bad behaviour. So again, explaining that that's not the case at all. And then around 8 years, there's awareness that death is permanent, and that death is irreversible. So things such as if you are planning to euthanize your pet because they're poorly or something else, questions they might ask are how big needles are, does being put to sleep hurt, what happens when you go into the ground and why don't his eyes close, things such as that. Then 9 to 12 years, they're aware of the finality and universality of death, and they naturally can feel anxious about the thought of death too. 11 to 16, this can be a time where the pet loss is really, really devastating. They may even feel closer to the pet than their real family. So really important that we are encouraged to express the emotions that we're feeling. So yeah. So that kind of touched on different things there. The pet bereavement support line is a great source of comfort, as is the Ralph site. They're both really good starting points. Trained volunteers that get it, they've been through it, so they understand. So I encourage you, if you're looking for more support on the subject, if you're facing it or friends and family are, then to check them out. And thank you for asking that question. I know it's not a cheerful question, but nevertheless it's really important to talk about because it's something that we're all going to face as a pet owner. So our families, and we'll certainly know friends or family that will go through it or have been through it. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any other questions, please let me know.